Okay, here we are editing. So first of all, the piece of software I'm using right now is called Pixlr. P-I, it's up here. It's actually a website. It's pixlr.com/x, version 10 of the software. So you can see that up here at the top, pixlr.com/x. It's free. You upload your photos to it. You can edit them. It's actually quite powerful if you want to use that kind of a thing. So that's what I'm going to show you things here on. So here's a photo that I took. There's a few things wrong with this picture. I purposely took it this way just so I could use it for demonstration purposes, obviously. Number one, the for sale sign's up in the yard. Well, we can't have that, as you know. Secondly, over on the right-hand side, there is this no parking sign, which I'm going to pretend I didn't notice when I took the picture, but of course I would have just moved myself a bit to the left if I had been my wits about me. Other than that, it's not a bad picture. There are these hydro wires that go across the scene. I potentially could have moved somewhere that they weren't quite as obvious, but as it sits, this is the picture I've got, and that's what I've got to work with. I can't get rid of those hydro wires. That would be misrepresenting the property. So we're going to go through a couple of things here. First of all, to get rid of this sign, there's not really anything else over here on the right-hand side that I care about. So I'm just going to crop this picture. Now over on the left-hand side, and most photo editing tools work the same way. I've got various tools down here, and this one towards second from the top is called crop. So if I tap on that, you'll see there's little white bars on the sides and little bars around the two corners. Now, I'm going to choose to do a few things. I am going to click on this button, I think, that says Select Aspect. And pick on Original down here. Now what that means is whatever I do to the cropping is going to maintain what they call the aspect ratio. So the width ratio to the height of the picture is going to stay the same. So if I come down to one of these, I'll come down to the bottom right hand corner here, and I'll move my mouse over top of the little corner white bars there, and I'll click my mouse and hey look, rule of thirds, and drag my mouse around. You see, I can make it bigger and smaller, but I can't change the fundamental shape of the picture, if you know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to bring this back just so I've gotten rid of that, rid of that no parking sign. So right about there. So, and if I'm happy with that, I haven't fundamentally changed the picture. I just got rid of the no parking sign. I look over here and click apply. And there, now I've got rid of that. My picture is still the same shape, if you understand what I mean by shape. The width ratio to the height is the same, so it'll translate to a screen or to newsprint very successfully. Okay, mission accomplished number one. Second exercise here, we gotta get rid of this for sale sign off the front yard. Luckily for us, in this situation, we've got things like grass and bushes and a bit of flowers, and there's a little bit of sidewalk in here, but that's not going to cause us too much grief. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to zoom in on this sign so we can get a little closer look at it. Down here in the bottom right, we've got the zoom function, so I'm going to zoom in a little closer. I'm going to just move my over here. You get a little red, a circle, a red line, and a circle. What are these things called? Squares. Red square. I can drag that down to the corner to get more into close to what I want to be. A little bit further in here. And I'll just drag my circle down a little bit again, or my square. What is my problem with shapes today? Geometry is not my strong suit, obviously. All right, so now we're kind of zoomed in that section. We get a better idea what we're looking for. So what I do is under the cutout on the pair of scissors here, he says, sorry, that's the wrong spot. It is under this tool, the retouch tool down here. Looks like some kind of a paintbrush, I guess. This is the tool. This is where we're going to find the cloning tool. And up here at the second from the left is the clone stamp. And this is the typical thing you're going to use to remove something from a picture. It's magical. It shows you an image of what your brush, if you want to think what it's going to look like. It's got this. See, we got a circle here. It's a bit fuzzy around the edges. That's the softness figure. You can make it fuzzier or less fuzzy. I can click and drag this around so the edges get really fuzzy or really sharp. Well, you don't want that. You want them. I would just leave it the way it is, 50%. The size just depends on how big the area you're going to copy. We'll start with maybe something like that in this situation. I don't know what it changes based on the size of your picture. So in this case, there are two selections here. There's a source and a paint. So the first thing I want you to do is pick where we're going to copy image from one section. Like I'm going to start at the bottom of this post because it's easy. There's just generic grass over here. I'm going to copy this grass from over here and put it in this spot. So with source turned on here in blue, I am over here and tap directly to the right. Boink. Okay. So now it's selected my source, and you see it's automatically switched from source to paint up in that mode thing. So as I move my mouse across here and I click, it's actually you can and little crosshairs. I'm holding my mouse button down. The little crosshairs come up and it shows me where I'm copying stuff from. And I'm just kind of painting around. And now, in a lot of applications, the post is still in there. If I continue to hold down, repaints the post over here. We don't want that. So you have to let go of the button and come and click on your source, come back out here, tab, and then go over and get rid of this stupid mistake I just made. The way to avoid that is to frequently let your mouse button up and click it back down again. So that was easy, and you can see from afar you would never know that post was ever there. Same thing applies. We'll go from the top down now. If I click over here in the bushes a little bit as my source, go back to source, click over here in the bushes a little bit, like that, and then come over and kind of draw out some of the bushes there. You might even luck it with the shade here to a certain extent. I've left my mouse button up. I'm going to reselect a different section down here as my source. Come down. I'm going to come a bit of an angle. No, I'm not going to do a bit of an angle. I'm going to come back over to here again. And we'll paint a little bit more over here. You can see how this works. Now, I mean, obviously, we're not exactly representing how the shrubs really are, but you know, it's close enough that we're good with that. Now we get into some of the tricky areas. So I'm going to just fix up a little more grass down here. I'm going to put source right here and try and bring in a little bit of the walkway here. So you got a little bit too much walkway coming down into make my size a little smaller, maybe come in even smaller than that. I'll try and speed this up. That's not bad. You could work with that stuff for hours, but you know, there's some funky things going on here, but they wouldn't really affect it. Oops, accidental. Control Z, undo. There you go. Important point. So you get the idea there. I'll zoom back out to the full size here again, and you can see once we get back out to the full size of the picture, essentially you would never know that for sale sign was there. So there you go. That's how to use that clone stamp tool, and then save, of course, when you're done. I'm going to show you one other thing here. So that's kind of two popular things that people would do. The third thing is the shadow and business I talked to you about. I'm going to switch to a different picture here. This is a wonderful picture I've got here. Beautiful house. In this picture, showing this picture of this living room, it's not horrible, but over here on the right hand side, like there's a dark shadow cast by whatever light was coming through. There's a bright window off screen to the left hand side here. There's dark shadows down here that really aren't complementary. There's some dark shadows in here, and this end of the trunk is dark, and there's holes in here. It's not a particularly nice looking picture. If on in Pixlr, if you go to this little adjust brightness pick, the fourth one down here, there are things in here that you can use to fix this. Now, if I scroll this down a little bit, come down a little bit, we have under the light. Typically, in the old days, you would have picked brightness. The problem with brightness is if you crank brightness up, it makes everything brighter. So now I can see down in that bottom right-hand corner, there's a set of dumbbells on the floor there. But the rest of the picture is all washed out. It's totally useless. So that's not the way to do this. Exposure in this case is even worse. It just, that's no good at all. It doesn't help us out. But in the if you scroll down here, you'll see there's a thing called shadows just above my head here. Shadows. And what shadows does is it raises the light levels of the dark areas without affecting the light areas much. So if I move shadows off to the right, all of a sudden the darker areas come up. I can now see the dumbbells over in this area, and this isn't quite so dark in here, and I can see the details in the trunk. But the rest of the picture is left alone, essentially. So that's a fantastic thing to do. A lot of interior shots will do well to have that applied to them. Anyway, once you're done, you say there's a save button down here in the bottom right hand corner. You can save the picture, and away you go. So it's actually a really good piece of software to use, and it's free. And give it a go.